You're listening to And This Is Why I Love Comics.
Andy and Mike!
And welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Love Comics. And I'm Andy. He's Mike.
Yes, I am.
Welcome to the show. We are talking about random read. We do this every Monday. You'll hear us.
Well, I got Marvel, DC, or Image.
Well, let's try. I'd like to hear your Marvel one.
Okay. It was the Hulk, and it was just mythos. Again, by Paul Jenkins as the writer. Paulo Rivera did the painting. So it was kind of, the painting style actually reminded me quite a bit of Kyle Baker. I don't know if you remember him. Very gesture-like and on the verge of cartoony. Some realism, but having strong cartoony elements to it. It's an ever so slight updating to the Kirby and Lee origin story for the Hulk. It has all the same story beats. The key elements are there of Thunderbolt Ross and Betty Ross, but the Bruce Banner is super nerdy. I mean, ridiculously nerdy. It's a slight difference. They try to update it, using modern technology, but still the Gamma Blast, still Rick Jones out in the middle of the field, and for some reason, Bruce Banner has to run all the way out there. It's like, couldn't they just have, driven him out there? But he runs and runs and runs to get out that far. I mean, they do have there's a panel with him in a Jeep, but he gets out of the Jeep and runs up to the kid. He's wearing headphones, so that's why he can't, again, like I said, it's modernized. It is actually an iPod back in the day.
Really modernized.
Yeah. So he's listening to an iPod, just, so he can't hear the Jeep coming. They can't hear Bruce Banner yelling at him. And they don't stop the blast, and kaboom. Rick is okay, but Bruce Banner gets the blast. So it's just a great retelling. Nothing new has been really oh man, that's a revolutionary take on the character or anything. If you've never seen the origin of the Hulk before in comic book form, this is it. So just kind of updated a little bit so there wasn't we're fighting the war or anything. The only thing I would say that they added to it was the Hulk coming back and basically destroying the entire research facility so that no other gamma radiation powered, research was going to be done. Like I said, the art was great. It was nice and very, very painterly. It wasn't taken to task like an Alex Ross where everything is so precise, but it wasn't super cartoony. It was just a nice hybrid. Like I said, the best I could say would be Kyle Baker and his painted look that he does. Kind of like Bill Sienkiewicz when he was doing more cartoonish painting. Mm-hmm. Like Elektra Assassin and stuff like that. Somewhat similar to that. Not as good as Bill Sienkiewicz's work, but pretty solid. And the story, about the Gamma Blast, him turning into the Hulk, they do reference the daddy issues he's got and some of the other things that are in the more current Hulk comics. They kind of are this way, if you, like I said, it's to introduce new readers to, some of these characters that have been around forever and just kind of going here's a very, very simplified overview of the character's origin again. So the whole series felt like, do you remember that Fireside book, Origin of Marvel Comics, and then Son of Origin of Marvel Comics books where they would just kind of reprint the origins of all their main character lines and then bring on the bad guys. This series was doing just that. They covered quite a few of the character origins, from X-Men, Spider-Man, Fan 4, Captain America. A pretty good run, and it was kind of covering the core Marvel, took out all the convoluted, Reed Richards' plan for them to get zapped by the cosmic radiation. It's no, we're just going to keep it to the basic story. But, there was a mystery issue in the middle of this whole thing, because it's like, of all the characters and all the main like Marvel, I wanted to learn about these guys and their basics, origins of the story. I believe it was issue 4, Ghost Rider. Why Ghost Rider?
Why not?
I don't know if at the time, I didn't look to see when this was published or anything, but if that was during the Nicolas Cage movie era, that they were thinking like, oh, we better, catch it while the Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider's never been hotter.
Yeah, no pun intended. Here's the X-Men. Got it. Fantastic Four, Spider-Man origin, Captain, all of them, they were there. And then Ghost Rider, right in the middle.
Batman's pearls.
Yeah, oh, man. They give us one more origin story. Yeah, it was a good, I was kind of glad to have read it again. That one I had read before, because I read the whole series. And it was a very quick read, but it was still kind of fun. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember how this character was started off. Mythos.
Wow.
No Tarzan. That's for certain.
Yeah, right. Well, nothing is.
Yeah.
When I read that, at least I thought I knew what was happening. Unlike when I read my Earth 2 Society Planetfall, I read the whole trade of it, like 80 billion-ish pages long.
Oof.
And I couldn't tell you what was going on at all in any of it. That's the great thing about it. The art was beautiful, Jorge Jimenez. And
oh yeah, he's a very Perez-like, right?
No, he's his own.
Okay.
Kind of.
Who am I thinking of? Because like somebody took over the Wonder Woman book that was kind of.
That's Phil Jimenez.
Oh, that's okay. I thought that's what I was mixing them up.
Yeah. The writer was Daniel H. Wilson and colored by Alexandra Sanchez. This covered 1 through 7 of Earth 2 Society, Volume 1, Planetfall. And I was just going to read one issue, but I could not describe what was happening, so I kept reading, thinking, okay, this will summarize what's happening.
Okay.
And while I get the gist that a bunch of these Justice Society characters, whom I love, the Justice Society, these were like, 52, New 52 kind of thing, Earth 2 maybe, characters, and they just got a new Earth because Darkseid destroyed the old Earth. Again, Darkseid. I'm sick of the New Gods.
It's both the best thing to happen and the worst thing to happen to DC.
Evil Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane was in a red tornado body. Original Superman was dead, so it was the Black Superman, whom I like. I'm still confused why Jimmy Olsen was the bad guy. Couldn't figure out who Batman was. Power Girl and Superman were not the cousin Superman. They were dating, but they were angry at each other. And I still have no clue. The Flash was in it. Young Jay Garrick Flash.
Oh, jeez.
But in like a tracksuit with a pointy helmet. Not the traditional helmet.
Yeah, not the helmet of Mercury or whatever.
There was spaceships involved and like world engines, and I left there dumber than when I went in. And I had read some of the earlier ones, but apparently I must have missed part of the last series because I really wanted to jump in on this one. It was just really disappointing. I just didn't get it. The art, again, very beautiful. Really confusing. I couldn't tell who the bad guys were because some of the good guys were fighting each other anyway, and I don't know. It would jump around to like flashbacks, and when you don't know what is currently going on, a flashback's not going to help unless it explains what had happened. And some of it did, and it's one of those beautiful looking books that you just look at the art and page through it and then set it back down.
No point in reading.
Nope. And I'm pretty sure I paid cover price on this, which was $14.99. So this will go into my store with a $5 price tag on it. And let's just move it along.
Hope for the best. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody will enjoy it.
It's in good shape. Because I'm not reading it again. And that's my brief, quick summary of Earth 2 Society. If you liked it, please explain to me what happened. I guess I could read the wiki, but I shouldn't have to read the wiki when I'm reading a comic book to figure out what's going on, Grant Morrison. But, sometimes you do.
Yeah, that's too bad, because there's again, strong potential whenever they had the multiverse. It's like, you can do whatever you want, but then they fall into the same traps of, like, let's overly complicate a thing. It's like, you don't have to. That's kind of the point. Just let it be the stories, but because that's not part of the same. No, that was Earth 1 with all like the Jeff Johns Batman
and I've read some of those, and that's a lot easier to understand than this stuff.
Yeah. Did that stem from that Multiversity series, or was this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did eventually stem from that. Like I said, I think it was a New 52 reintroduction of some characters on a different planet just to set their own continuity. But it's just early on, I was kind of liked it because it reintroduced and kind of modernized some characters like Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Jay Garrick, made them younger. You could kind of see the earlier days without it going back to the 40s. But it kind of switched writers a couple times, and it was just like each writer just had its own idea about it. And to me, it just got more confusing. And then apparently this writer just created a new Earth. I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. It was an awful experience, only made worse because Tarzan Superman was awful as well,
So your random reads aren't been not the success that you've been hoping for.
No, I guess I picked random because I figured we wouldn't talk about these on the show, and I think I grabbed too random of a random pick.
Yeah, you got kind of a Russian roulette kind of a. Well, it might be it might be a good issue, it might be a bad issue, don't know. But the sad part is these are issues we bought at some point, interested in us enough to purchase them. Sometimes it's by cover alone, but then others are like, yeah, this is just bad. On to Reborn. Mark Millar, Greg Capullo. I've been a fan of Greg Capullo's work since Quasar. Beautiful stuff even back then.
Kind of a early Burn stuff was what I remember of that early Quasar. But.
Yeah. So he's done a great job. He's obviously his art style is really expanded and continues to get better and better. Obviously moved on from Quasar to doing Spawn for quite a while to doing Batman for a very long run with that Scott Snyder stuff. But this is him pairing up with Mark Millar. And so I'm reading issue 3, and I thought, well, I'm just going to stick to this premise of grabbing a random issue. So as issue 3, the issue opens up with a guy riding an elephant with jetpack. That's frame number 1. This guy's zipping through the air, holding on to the ears of an elephant as it's flying and with jet engines. And the first couple of lines is he used to run that auto shop near the place. He customizes pets and takes them for a ride. The elephants love it. So, yeah, this is how this issue starts. It just gets weirder and weirder from there. So it turns out this is like a weird afterlife. So the whole concept of reborn is like you've died in the real world and you reincarnate of sorts. And it took me a while because I have not read this series at all. I have it. I have at least the first 6 issues of it. but I've not read this series at all. So this was like, well, I'll just jump right into the middle and see how that would go over. Needless to say, it did not go over. I was so lost because like the very next page shows a dragon with a lion's head. And it's like, okay, so this is getting like a weird, like, is this Earth? Is this not Earth? They're wearing armor, but she's got high-tech stuff. So it turns out, as I'm reading, it's a father who had passed away long ago, and his daughter, who's passed away recently, reunite in this, like, quote-unquote afterlife. And it is a mix of, you know, high-tech, fantasy, sword and sorcery. She's like a girl of destiny, and you know, he's asking questions about like, hey, how did life go after I died? You know, is everything okay? And she's got some abilities of her own. They basically wind up getting captured. The father and daughter get captured. They're going to be auctioned off to a cat in a, hyperspace ship. And they're held captive by a guy who used to be part of the IRS, but before he reincarnated. I'm saying a bunch of random words, but that's basically how this issue runs. It reads well. It's Mark Millar, so it reads well. It's just, since I grabbed issue 3, I have nothing of an exposition that's giving me like what's going on, what's happening. They wind up in the this city of zombies, and they have to fight their way out. They get tricked into jumping into this portal, and by this clearly evil individual. You can hide here. And then it turns out that they wind up with the main bad guy's personal dungeon. And the main bad guy is just as like the most ogre-like ogre you could think of. Like where he's got one shoulder pad full of spikes, one arm bracer full of spikes. He's got spikes on his knee pads. He's got a mutilated face. He's got the meat hook on his belt. And that's where the story ends with basically like, they're like, oh no, we're in the worst place of all times. Like, and the bad guy says, not to worry, folks. Nobody's ever here for long. And then you see the big bad reveal. And you're like, oh my goodness. And that was issue 3. I was confused. Beautiful art, like I said. Great coloring. The character designs were good. It took me a while to kind of like get any semblance of like, oh, this is like they're dead. This is just a weird, I don't know if they're fully like reincarnated in a different world, or if this is what the afterlife is being portrayed as being. I don't know. But death in this afterlife is a thing. I always kind of, I don't have like the Siskel and Ebert thumbs up, or I give it 3 out of 4 stars or anything like that. It's more, I gauge these things. If I read one issue, do I feel inclined to read more? And actually, I did feel like I wanted to read more because I kind of needed that closure, kind of say, what the heck is going on?
So it was like two Rothleys?
Yeah, and a knee slap. Yeah. But it was, like I said, it was well defined by people who are at the top of the game. So great art. Story was, you could follow the journey they were taking. You may not have understood what was happening, but you could at least follow along, because it was just, they got beat up. So those guys must be the bad guys. Oh, they are now captured. Okay, now they escape, but they fall into this way, my friends, and they get into a bigger trap. And it's like, oh, that's the whole issue. That was it in like basically 2 sentences.
That sounds classic.
Yeah. So it was just a nice romp. I just would like to have known a little bit more of an exposition. Like, not to go full Chris Claremont, where everything has to be explained every issue of like, these are my X-Men. They're mutants. You're like, oh, geez, do I need to read this again?
He's the best at what he does.
Yeah, what he does isn't pretty. But it would have helped
Well, that classic recap ties into my classic recap of the Big Bang comics. Of course, we had 2 episodes of Big Bang comics last season. And this was the National Guardians number 3, which was from 2023, so it's pretty recent. This one I read, Till Death Do Us Part, was from Gary Carlson and Sterling Clark and Ken McFarlane. Oh boy, I have classic battles, classic characters. It starts out with this guy called The Badge, and he was like a Captain America shield kind of guy, maybe kind of like the Guardian, more than a Captain America guy.
Oh, yeah.
Guardian.
The yellow helmet and shield.
He's kind of like in a danger room fighting these characters. It turns out, like, I guess he has like robot bodies he transfers his brain into, or his consciousness. And someone has taken over his other bodies, and they're just big old battle, and just a very classic art style from like a 1960s feel. I don't want to get too much into it, but the storyline was entertaining. The dialogue was fun. It may be that I don't expect like some of these Big Bang comics just because it's not DC or Marvel, but I always end up liking them more because just how entertained I am by them rather than worried about continuity or characters or anything like that. Like I'm fully fresh. If a character dies, I'm not like, oh, that was my favorite character, because there's a bunch of characters I like, and I don't have years and years invested in these characters as yet, and it's just a fun read. Out of the 3 here, I recommend this one more than any of the DC or the Dark Horse books that I've read for these random reads. Boy, I got to pick better books. I really do.
Yeah, but some of these things you just pick up thinking like, the cover looks great, or the concept, like what would they do with Superman in the jungle? What can
Yeah, there was no bigger disappointment than that series, because the art, the cover was great, and you just start reading it, and you just go, someone fumbled the ball here. I just, Ricky, I can't do it. And, you just get so disappointed by concepts that were ridiculous, and why did this ever happen? And yet, I could read something like Big Bang, and the concept is pretty basic, and yet I'm fully entertained, and it's a quick read. Don't get me wrong. The Superman had a bit Superman Tarzan had a bit wordiness to it. It's probably another part I didn't think was, show me, don't explain it to me.
Yeah.
Especially in a book about Tarzan. And just the Big Bang was just a lot of fun. There's pinups in the back, and you can tell that they just love these characters.
Yeah.
A whole lot. Tell crazy stories that won't necessarily make sense, but do strangely more than Superman and Tarzan.
Even in an Elseworld sense, it still makes sense.
Right, and Earth 2 blowing up thing. None of that made sense compared to the story they told on Big Bang. I don't know. It sounds like you picked better issues than I did.
Yeah. The randomness is good because it made me read a couple of books that I hadn't read before. What worked in my case was that 2 out of the 3 were self-contained. They didn't require any further reading, nor did they need, was there something in the beginning that you missed that was an important part of the tale that was being told? The whole story was self-contained. When I get into this Suicide Squad issue, that's self-contained. Yeah, the Reborn, it was some doing because of it being, part of an ongoing story that you're only taking a snippet. You have no idea where is it ultimately going. Why is it going? Because he missed the first few issues. I grabbed issue 3, so I was like, "Phew, I am."
Daredevil, you.
Yeah. So
Now, is that still going on? You know?
You know what? I did not even look to see if that's. I highly doubt it because both creators have moved on to other things.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think they probably were either, but you never know.
Yeah. It's like one of those things where they just kind of like, when we get an opportunity, we jump back on that title and we add another story arc of 3 issues or something like that. Oh no, it's only those 6 issues. Even though it says book 1.
Well, apparently it didn't do that great.
I guess it was a mini series to begin with, so I don't know if I've got all 6. I might have 1 through something. A lot of Mark Millar's stuff, has a very finite. It goes to a point and it's done, which is actually for the best. I mean, ongoing series, all the stakes are gone. There's nothing that's like the threat of like, oh, Superman may die. It's like, no, this is his ongoing title. He's going to be around. Lois Lane is threatened to die. No, she's never going to die. Lex Luthor is finally, he's taking on kryptonite poisoning. He'll be back. So
no.
Yeah. So it's just, whereas these are such a standalone thing that it can be, you can have bigger, bolder stories with consequences. Do
you have a favorite Mark Millar book?
So far, I got to go back to what I ironically mentioned earlier, and that was that Red Sun. I thought that with Superman being, raised in the Soviet Union instead of the U.S., I thought that was an interesting take. It didn't necessarily need a Russian Batman, nor did it need a United States Green Lantern, but
yeah, I don't remember. I remember reading that and liking it. I just don't remember anything about it now. I know he did Kick-Ass, he did Ultimates.
It's kind of like a lot of people kind of refer to him as being a knockoff of Grant Morrison. I can see it, but at the same point, I think he's telling stories of his own now, and doing a good enough job with novel takes on things. But he's got his own universe. He did that Wanted series that wound up being a movie.
Oh, where they can curve bullets.
Yeah. If you somehow whip your arm around, it will make bullets sling around you. So.
Oh, he did Old Man Wolverine, didn't he?
Oh yeah, Old Man Logan. Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Yeah, so he did do. He's done quite a bit. He's a solid writer, and he's got a lot of just original ideas. He did like a thing like Millarverse or something like that for Image. Like a bunch of his titles have a kind of loosely interconnected. I still think if anybody who's kind of got their own kind of quasi universe of quality books, it's still going to be Criminal and Velvet. The Ed Brubaker stories. I will read those anytime I get my hands on them. Tempted to grab one of those. If it wasn't going to be random, I was going to grab one of those books. So my third random book was Star Spangled War Stories, number 116.
What year?
Oh, let me take a quick look here. 1965?
Wow.
So this
you
was
won earliest book review.
Yeah, I think it might be. 1964, August/September of 1964. So this one was, I don't know if this is necessarily the first Suicide Squad, but it's actually he opened up and this story is called The Suicide Squad. I know they were called like Task Force X and so forth prior to that, so this isn't the first of this series, but these Star Spangled War stories are just weird. So it opens up with 2 soldiers wearing winter garb because they're in some sort of Arctic setting. And one is on one of those like spined dinosaurs and shooting at pterodactyls. So
wait, shooting the spines?
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of they got like a machine gun shooting at the pterodactyls, but they killed this, I don't remember what they're called. Stegosaurus, I think is what the name was.
Spinosaurus.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I gave up on the dinosaur names. They keep changing them. I call them pterodactyls, and other people are, no, it's a pterodon. The story is about two soldiers who are sent off on a mission to the north, and it gets revealed later in this story that they're up there to destroy rockets that are hidden in this Arctic island, and these rockets are they're blowing up American vessels. So they send these two guys up there to destroy the rocket. But in the meantime, they're just minding their own business as they're making their way, and they just happen to stumble across a frozen Stegosaurus, we're going to call it, and they throw a grenade, kill it. It just gets more wackadoo because one soldier is insisting on holding a gun at his compatriot. It just constantly, and he keeps firing at him. He's got like an infinite number of bullets in this Colt 45, and he just keeps shooting his partner. And it turns out, and this is where you think them fighting various dinosaurs of outrageous scale, and them fighting off all these dinosaurs was odd enough in this story. It gets weirder because it turns out the one soldier who is shooting at his partner holds a grudge against said partner because he let his brother die, and he ruined the United States in a public fashion. And you're like, what the heck? Now, how did his brother die? Well, it turns out that this soldier and his other soldier's brother were on the United States toboggan team.
Ooh.
And they had a freak toboggan accident in which the one guy dies.
Who do you blame for that?
Yeah, he holds a grudge. So his brother holds a grudge this entire time from the Olympics until they both coincidentally sign up for the Suicide Squad, which allows them a second chance to redeem their honor. It's like, oh my goodness, he signed up too? And then they insist on partnering together. And one of the reasons why the main hero was assigned the task is that there happens to be next to this rocket site a natural toboggan run. And so they needed his expertise as a U.S. Olympic toboggan pilot, toboggan passenger, I don't know, driver, traveled to the Arctic. He continues to hold a gun on him, like, I'm going to kill you because you killed my brother in that toboggan accident in the Olympics. They take out the Stegosaurus. They take out the pterodactyls. They take out a giant, no idea what this thing's supposed to be. And they take out yet a fourth type of dinosaur on the toboggan run itself. They send the toboggan into the rockets, destroying the rocket field. They survive. And they wind up not being friends, but they're like, I will follow you wherever you go just so you never, kill another person's brother. And it's weird. It's truly Silver Age. It's, they were trying to figure out, like, what do we do? We're transitioning from all these war stories that were the rage of comic books forever. We're now in the 60s. War comics were not as big anymore, but what do we do? Do we just not do these war stories? Well, let's make a war stories with a twist. And in this case, we're fighting dinosaurs in the north. So, yeah, that's the twist. It makes perfect sense if you think about it. And, there's no explanation as to, like, how did they get rockets there without waking up these dinosaurs? Did they encounter the dinosaurs when they were firing off the rockets? Did the rockets cause the dinosaurs to be nothing? They were just under the ice, and then they just showed up everywhere. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a story for another day.
Yeah. But the thing is like, they kept these issues in continuity. So if DC is really that much of a stickler for continuity, why has no DC comic had these dinosaur creatures reappear in the northern ice caps?
Maybe they have. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But just an odd story. And it was great because it was self-contained. And I guess probably, a lot of issues at this point were because they were meant to be read randomly. They weren't meant to be like, this issue leads to this issue. There wasn't story arcs. It was just, hey, you're going to grab a random issue off this spinner rack from your local drugstore. So we're going to just tell you a full story in these 20-something pages. So it was truly meant for random reading, and I felt this was actually a pretty spot-on issue to have read for this purpose. You didn't have to read any issues before it. You don't have to read any issues after it. I don't think these characters probably ever returned anywhere else. But yeah, it was just an interesting, Silver Age war story. Because like my older brother was into Weird War.
Okay.
That was a DC title, and then DC also had, what was it, like the Robot Soldier or whatever that was, or the Unknown Soldier who had the mask that wraps around his face.
G.I. Robot.
G.I. Robot, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, it's just, they were military comics, but they were not quite your traditional war stories.
Yeah, sci-fi spin. They had the Blackhawks.
Yes.
Yeah, Sergeant Rock even had some sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, because even, like, you think about it with Nick Fury. It was Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos, and then he kind of went into Nick Fury as, like, basically James Bond with his own gadgets.
So if you have a random read we should read, let us know. Our webpage is, and this is why I love comics podcast.buzzsprout.com. You can email us at, and this is why I love comics at gmail.com. Join us on the X at, and this is why I L1. We're on the Facebook, and this is why I love comics podcast. We're on the TikTok. Thanks for supporting us so far there. We've had a lot of people join us there. Why I love comics podcast. Thanks to all supporters and friends of the show. Thanks to producer Katie and producer Tony, co-host Matt 2.0, Kevin, Jamie, Matt 10.0, and Nick. And thanks to Thunder Chicken for the tunes. All the links are in the show notes. And yeah, next episode, I think we're going to... Oh, The Goon. We're going to talk about The Goon.
Yeah.
And we might cover that in a little extra longer episode, or maybe a couple shorter episodes. I don't know what we're doing yet, but we're going to do The Goon, and then we are going to have new comic reader, not so new now, Kevin from Thunder Chicken on the show as well in a couple weeks. So for the podcast, I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And we'll see you next Monday.
Chevrolet Death Squad! That's right!
Kids sometimes drive you in the bonkers.
Thanks. I just had to talk myself into it.